Hello and welcome back to this lecture. So far we have seen several algorithms for supervised learning. What I am going to do now is just summarize at a high level what are these algorithms, and now we will start looking at a slightly different way of thinking about learning algorithms, which is called as ensemble learning, which is what we will do today. So far this is the picture that we have seen so far. We have looked at two different types of approaches to algorithms. One is the generative model and the other is the discriminative model. And we have seen several examples of algorithms in both these cases. In the generative case, for example, we looked at the naive Bayes algorithm. We looked at the Gaussian discriminant analysis or Gaussian naive Bayes. Here what the idea was, you assume a probability of x comma y somehow, and then you try to estimate the parameters. Whereas in the discriminative world, we looked at multitude of algorithms, starting from simple k nearest neighbors, decision trees, logistic regression, perceptron, and support vector machines. So these are all different classification algorithms, and what we will see a bit later is how to kind of view several of these algorithms under the same framework, which is called as the loss plus regularization framework. We will look at it a little later. But for now, I just wanted to recall that we have looked at several algorithms, and the goal of today is going to be look at what are called as meta classifiers or sometimes also called as ensemble classification. Classifiers. So, what are meta classifiers or ensemble classifiers? So, these are also some kind of a learning algorithm, but they are going to work on the idea that if you start with what are called as weak learners, and we will talk about what weak learners are, you somehow want to convert this into what are called as strong learners. So, weak learners are just classification algorithms which are weak in a certain sense that without defining it formally here for this course, let me say that weak learners are those which will give you better than random performance on any test data, right. So, these are kind of better than random. What do I mean by better than random? Well, you have a data set which you are assuming is coming from some underlying distribution. You are training your classifier on this, and then if you are trying to do a testing on the test data, well, if it's a binary classification, I can just simply toss a coin and then decide on the label, and that's going to be a random classifier, right. So, a classifier which is simply going to get 50% error rate, let's say. Now, this classifiers are which we are calling as weak learners might get 60% accuracy or 55% accuracy, things like that, right. So, slightly better than random. So, we we have a weak learner like this, and now the goal is to somehow convert this weak learner into a strong learner. The question is, why should we start with weak learners? Why can't we directly try to get a good learning algorithm? So, there are several reasons why one would want to do this. We will look at two different types of reasoning for this. The first is to understand weak learners which do something called as overfitting. And the second is we look at weak learners which do something called as underfitting. So, for this we need to understand the terms overfitting and underfitting at a broad level. So, overfitting and underfitting are two terms which we will try to understand first, and then we will look at what weak learning means in this context. So, overfitting happens when, for example, you have a decision tree that you train to to arbitrary height such that your training error becomes 0. That is what happens is you can always keep adding depth to your decision tree. That is, you can keep splitting your decision tree. If you recall decision tree, it would ask a question and then based on that it would split the data into 2 parts such that the impurity reduces. Now you can keep splitting your decision tree to arbitrary depth such that at some point it becomes completely pure. We saw that that's a bad idea to do because doing that would lead to fitting noise as well, right? So your data set is not exactly subscribing to the structure that you are believing it to have because there is some noise associated with it. So it's always structure plus noise that determines the labels. So now if you somehow, if your learner is trying to, so fit noise, thinking that it is structure, part of the structure, then this is what we'll end up with. We'll end up with an overfit model. On the other hand, underfitting happens when the opposite happens, right? So your actual prediction, actual relationship between input and output depends on some structure, let's say a linear structure or a decision tree based structure plus some noise added to it. Now, what might happen when you're doing underfitting is that you are thinking, you are missing out on the structure thinking that it is noise. It means that you are being too conservative, right? So, missing out on structure thinking it is noise. So, to give an example, let me motivate this with an example on a regression problem where it might be easier to look at the case that we are looking at. Similar ideas apply to classification as well. Let's say we have an input variable which is x and then we want to predict an output which is y, and our actual structure that relates x to y, let's say is something like let's say a sinusoidal curves of sorts. Let's say this is the true structure which is a sine curve, but then the data points that we get for x comma y is, let's say we kind of get these x values and then the corresponding y which is our data points are looking not exactly on the structure, but then there is some noise associated with the structure. Something like this, right? So, this is the data set that we actually look at. Now, a model which is trying to understand the structure, right? So, now we do not know what the real structure is that relates the input to the output. So, as designers of algorithms, we are trying to pick some structure which we believe relates the input to the output. Now, underfitting happens when we look at a very, very conservative structure, very simplistic structure, whereas overfitting happens when we look at a very, very complicated structure. So, what would be a very simple structure for this data? Well, if I just plot the data points now without plotting the relevant structure here. So, your data point looks like this, right? The data point looks like this, and a simplistic structure for this could be a linear structure. Which means that I might learn a linear classifier, linear regressor for this data, which might say that, well, maybe this is the best possible line, right? Now, here what has happened is the actual structure is more complicated than a linear structure, whereas we are imagining that the input to the output mapping is indeed linear and we are trying to find the best possible regressor in this case. So, we are missing out. So, we are imagining that what is actually structure is, we are thinking of that as noise, because in this case the moment I say it's a linear structure, which means that I am thinking of all these bits as noise bits. Right. So, these pieces are all noise for me, but then they are not really noise. There is some structure in this noise as well, which we are kind of missing out in this case. So, when we do this is a case where underfitting happens. Similarly, for a classification problem, if you are trying to imagine a classification problem with a linear model, whereas the actual y, the label y is decided based on, let's say, a quadratic or a cubic model, then underfitting happens. Whereas, on the other hand, I can imagine for the same data set a very, very complicated looking classifier regressor in this case. I keep saying it as classifier, but yeah, what I mean is in this example it is a regression problem, right. So now what I can do is that I can fit a very complicated polynomial for this. Let us say I am trying to fit a so in this case 6, 7, 8th degree polynomial or something like that, which might fit my data like this, right. So this is a overfit model because now it is making my training error 0, whereas in the underfit model the training error was not 0. In the overfit model the training error is 0. The reason training error 0 is because your regressor in this case is too complicated that it can make the training error 0. But both of these are not going to do so well on our test data, right. So what is going to be our test data? Maybe we have a test point which is somewhere here, maybe I will put a point here for which the test value is here, right. So now if you look at the same point here, my weak learner, which is an underfit model, is going to say something wrong. Similarly, my overfit model is also going to predict something wrong, whereas the actual answer is somewhere here, right. The actual answer is here. So this is the error of the overfit model, this is the error of the underfit model. Both are performing incorrectly in this case, right. So and both are not good ideas, right. So in one case you are missing out structure for noise, you are thinking of structure as noise, in the other case you are thinking of noise as structure. Both are bad ideas. Now so if the way we handled this, for instance, in decision trees or even in k nearest neighbors, where you had k as the parameter, as you increased k, if k was small, then you had a very complicated classifier. If k was large, as k becomes larger and larger, the classifier's decision boundary smoothens out, it becomes simpler and simpler, and when k is in fact n, then it just becomes one value for the entire space. Similarly, for decision trees, as you increase the depth, right. So I mean, if depth is 1, then it means that it's a very simple classifier, where you are only looking at one feature and value pair to make a decision, which is not going to give you great test accuracy. Similarly, if you train a decision tree to the end that it is as pure as possible, then you would actually be fitting noise as well. So in both these cases, you are going to get a weak learner, which is not going to perform so well in the test data. Now, how do we deal with this situation, right? So now one way, or we are going to look at two different ways to deal with weak learners. In the first way, we look at cases where you have potentially an overfit model and then try to somehow reduce, somehow kind of come up with a better learner that starts with the overfit model, but then somehow avoids overfitting. So the problem with overfit model is that if I slightly change, let's look at the overfit model first, and then we'll talk about the underfitting in a bit. So if I slightly change the data, the overfit model is going to change a lot. For example, in the same case, right, so let's focus on this picture where we have fit an 8th degree polynomial. That is the bag of regressors from which I am picking one. Now, and it's this complicated 8th degree polynomial that I'm getting. Now, if I change my model, if I change my data set a little bit, right, so maybe my data set changes a little bit, which is very possible if you, for instance, again draw a bunch of x's and y's from the same distribution, right. So because there is some inherent noise, and that noise might change because that noise is a random quantity, and so your data set might change a bit if you draw the same distribution again from the same distribution again. Now, what might happen is if I fit again an 8th degree polynomial here, I might again will fit the training data exactly. I mean, these are not exact polynomials, but then I'm giving you an illustration here. Now, what would happen is for the same test point, right. So, basically I drew another set of data points, same set, say 8 data points, and then I am fitting an 8th degree polynomial, I get training error 0, but then for the same data point, for the same test point, right. So, this is the x test, right. So, this is y hat, this is my predicted, this is my actual y. Now, the actual y is somewhere here, that I am plotting that in green. So, let me put that in green, this is y. Now, my predicted y is somewhere here, right. So, now if I again and again sample different data points, different data sets, and then try to fit the same from the same class of 8th degree polynomials, I am going to get different polynomials because each one will fit the noise differently. And so, if I just look at for different polynomials, how is my output differing, right. So, how does my output with respect to the truth differs? My output might be completely off, right. So, one point it might be here, the other next data set it might be here, next data set it might be here, here and here, right. So, now which means that the model is too sensitive to the data, which means the one way to capture this is used by saying that the model has high variance. So, which means that if the data changes a little bit, your model's prediction is going to change a lot. So, there is going to be a lot of variation in prediction, right. So, these are high variance models. Whereas, in this case, in the underfit case, even if the data changes a little bit, the best linear line, right. So, it is not going to change too much, right. So, maybe it will change from here to somewhere here, maybe I will use a different color, maybe it will change a little bit here, right. So, if I change the data, again redraw the samples, now you can think of it as the predictions was here, now it is here, the next time it will be here, here, and then it will only vary within a small region, the variance is low, right. So, but then we are still going to make mistakes with respect to the test data because we have missed out on the structure. So, less complicated classifiers are not going to vary too much, but then because it has missed out on the structure, your test performance is going to be bad. The largely, the high complicated classifiers are going to vary too much, and so you are going to miss out on performance in the test data, right. So, these are the classifiers which suffer from what is called as high or rather high bias, right. So, so bias is kind of telling you how good is your assumed structure actually representing the truth. If the truth in this case is a sinusoidal wave, but then my assumed structure is a line, then there is a lot of bias between the truth and my assumed structure. So, these are classifiers which high bias. On the other hand, how good can an 8th degree polynomial kind of simulate a sine curve? Well, in that case we can say that your bias is low, but then because you want to do well on the test data, your variance is high. In one case you suffer from high bias, in the other case you suffer from high variance, right. So, your error will always again without defining it formally, your error will always be a mix of bias and variance. Now, as you start with low, small, very less complicated classifiers, you will suffer an error, large error due to high bias. As you increase the complexity of your classifiers, your bias will go down, but then your variance will increase. So, there is always a trade-off between bias and variance. Now, all the parameters that we cross-validated, let us say k in k nearest neighbors or depth in decision tree and so on, or even your lambda in your regularized logistic regression or your support vector machines, can be somehow thought of as balancing this bias variance trade-off, right. So, how am I allowing larger searching from a larger set of classifiers, larger class of models, or am I searching in a very less complicated class of models. So, now what we are going to see is two different ways to deal with this bias variance trade-off by kind of ensembling classifiers.